In the name of the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit, one God, Amen. Welcome back to another week of the Lord's Prayer series where we're taking apart and we're examining what the prayer of the Lord's Prayer looks like. Our Father who art in heaven. And we're looking at it bit by bit. And today we're looking at the part where it says, Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Of course, last week we talked about Thy kingdom come. And we said the kingdom is coming and He's a king and what that means to us. And this week we're looking at the phrase where it says, Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Now, what does that mean? What does it mean, thy will be done? If we take time to really understand the meaning, it means, I trust you, God. Like, I have my own desires and my own will about how my life ought to go, but I will submit my desires and my feelings, and I will trust your will, your judgment, and I will consider what you say to be the right way. It also means that we obey God. Even though we have our carnal desires, our fleshly desires, we put that to the side and obey God so that His will come true. As it says in the book of Proverbs, chapter 19, verse 21, it says, a person may have his own plans in his heart. Like, we want to do our own things. We have like an idea of how our life should navigate. But the Lord's purpose wins out in the end. It's His will that will win at the end. And the faster and the earlier we can submit our own desires and our will, the better it will be. Then notice we say, on earth as it is in heaven. What is the will of God in heaven? It's for us to rest. It's for us to have joy. It's for us to have happiness. So we say on earth as it is heaven, because if that's the will of God in heaven, that's the same will He has for us here on earth. On earth, He wants us to be happy. He wants us to be full of joy. But the way that will happen is when we begin to obey Him and when we trust Him to guide us in our life. And when we do that, even when we're not ready, even when we feel like things are not going according to our own desires, we should be able to trust Him. Now, let's be honest. Let's be honest. When is it easy to trust God? It's like when everything is going according to our way, right? Like when you get a new job that you've been looking for, what do you say? Oh, look what God did in my life. What a blessing. And then when you get like more money, you get more fame, you have health, you have family, you have friends, you have everything that you want around you, and life is just going according to what you think. And what do you say? Ah, look how God has blessed me. But what happens when you are fired from a job? Do you take time to say, look what God did in my life? Like, thank God. Look what He did. What a blessing. His will is done? What about something a little bit harder? What about losing a loved one? Or losing health? And someone we love, someone we care about is sick in front of us. Can we take the time to say, even this, like, I don't get it, I don't understand it, but even this is the will of God? Like, do we have enough trust in God to understand His will is being done? We prayed. We say, Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Let your will be done. What if this is His will? We don't understand it. We don't know why He's doing it. But can we trust Him? See, when things don't go according to our plan, we tend to reject God. We tend to abandon God. But if we abandon Him, where can we go? In a land far, far away where anything's possible, there once was a lily, a beautiful flower who blossomed. And she was enjoying her life. She would just sit there and look pretty all day. And, she had confidence. Sometimes it's good to have confidence, right? It's not good to be boastful, but sometimes it's good to have self-confidence and look at yourself in a positive light. And she would just stand tall and tell herself she was beautiful, right? And sometimes we need to do that. We need to look into the mirror and say, you look good today. Right? Like, we need to hear these words and that's how this flower, she just was enjoying life. And she would wake up early in the morning and bask in the sun and enjoy the wind. And just everything in her life was going great. But suddenly things began to change. She noticed slowly but surely things were being different. Like in the morning, she would wake up and she wouldn't see the sun. This flower, this beautiful flower, who had blossomed, would look for the sun, it wasn't there. Instead, she would be greeted by cold weather. And the wind that she once enjoyed was too strong for her to bear. And all of a sudden, it started raining every day. And this began to have a toll on her body. She was stressed. She wasn't eating. She wasn't sleeping. And then that began to have a toll on her body. And slowly, this beautiful lily flower began to wither away. She noticed that her leaves were beginning to fall one by one. She was depressed, sad. Why is this happening? Why are all these like horrible things happening? What's happening? And she was so sad she didn't know what to do when suddenly she had an unannounced visitor. This visitor was a bird. And this bird was known for telling tales to anyone who would be willing to listen. The craziest, the wildest stories that anybody could hear. And he went to the lily and said, "Hey, what's wrong?" And she said, "Everything is changing. I can't recognize this place anymore. Don't you feel that way? Especially right now. You're looking at the news. You're looking at the pandemic. You're looking at all these diseases, these wickednesses happen. I don't recognize anything anymore." And that's how the lily felt, the flower felt. She was becoming depressed. So the flower said, hey, don't you worry. I have good news for you. There's this wonderful place. And the flower goes, "Really? Where?" And she says, "It's a place where you can come and you can enjoy the heat as long as you want. There is no rain, no cold weather, and you could stay as long as you want." And she says, take me now." And the bird lowered his head to the ground. And he began to pluck away at the soil surrounding her roots. And after he plucked away, he finally picked her up by his mouth. He plucked her out of the ground. And he began to head to this destiny place. Unfortunately for the flower, she never made it because she died on the voyage. See, what happened was, because she was separated from her roots, she withered, dried up, and died on the voyage, while they were flying on the air. What the flower didn't recognize is when it was raining, when the wind was powerful, that was just a seasonal thing. That was something that was going to pass. Had she stayed with her roots in the ground and weathered the storm, she would have recognized that sun that she looked forward to would have came back into her life. But she abandoned her roots. I fear that some of us are like this lily. We recognize all of our blessings that surround us, but sometimes we have trials. And these trials are seasonal. They only last a few months, maybe a few weeks. But if we can stand with our roots, which is God, if we stay true to our roots, which is prayer, we can weather the storm. But if we abandon it, then we too will dry up and we will die. When things get tough, we gotta stay strong and hold on to our roots. If we abandon God when things are getting tough, who will we hold on to? Even in a time of trial and tribulation, we have to understand that this is His will. Why? We don't know. But we have to trust Him enough and say, "This is your will, God. And I will stay with you. I don't understand why you're doing it, but I'll stay with you. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven." And next week, through the grace of God, we will see the meaning of "Give us this day our daily bread." Hopefully you guys are following along, and I'll see you guys next week with Father Xavier. In the name of the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit, one God. Amen.